They said humans were too soft for the galaxy, too emotional, too fragile, too dependent on hope. In the eyes of the stronger alien races, humans were only useful as workers or slaves. On most planets, humans lived in metal camps, building cities they could never live in, mining resources they would never own. The galaxy had already decided their place at the bottom. When the Growl Empire invaded Earth 70 years ago, humanity never stood a chance. The sky burned for 3 days. The oceans boiled with falling ships. Billions died. The survivors were taken away, scattered across the stars to serve their conquerors. The story of humanity became a whisper, a memory carried by the few who still remembered. Blue skies and free air. Among those survivors was a man named Daniel Hale. He was not a soldier or a scientist, just an engineer who once worked on power grids in New London before it was destroyed. On the mining world of Trionine, Daniel lived like every other human, silent, tired, and afraid. The Growl Guards watched every move, their cold metal armor shining under the twin suns. Every mistake, every delay, every sign of resistance meant death. But Daniel noticed something others didn't. The Growl were strong, yes, but they were lazy. They had grown used to control. They believed no one could ever rise against them. To them, humans were broken tools. That arrogance gave Daniel an idea. He began to fix things differently. Not openly, quietly. A small wire left loose here, a cooling valve set to overload there. At first, it was nothing more than a thought, a fantasy of revenge. But as the months passed, Daniel started to see opportunity. There were other humans who still remembered how to fight, how to plan. Old soldiers, hackers, pilots, all working in silence in the mines. Every night. After the final alarm, Daniel met with them in the old tunnels, where even the growl sensors didn't reach. They spoke in whispers, using code words from Earth's forgotten wars. They shared food, plans, and hope, a dangerous thing to have in a place like Trion-9 one night. As Daniel worked on a power relay, he saw something strange. A Growl transport ship landed near the mines, guarded by elite soldiers. The cargo looked important, sealed containers glowing blue through the cracks. He asked one of the guards what it was. The alien only laughed and said, "A gift from the core. Not for your kind." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about that blue light. He had seen something like it once, years ago, when he worked in New London. Experimental human tech. Something that could power cities or destroy them. If the Growl had found it, they were planning something big. The next day, Daniel and his group made a decision. They would break into the Growl transport zone. It was madness, but the kind that gave humans strength. For 70 years, they had obeyed, worked, and died quietly. But that night, something changed. As the suns fell below the horizon, the tunnels filled with whispers and footsteps. Daniel carried a small EMP device, a human invention rebuilt from scraps. The others followed with stolen tools and blades made from mining drills. When the night reached its darkest point, they moved. The first guard fell without a sound. The second didn't even see them coming. For the first time in decades, humans fought not to survive, but to win. They reached the transport and opened one of the containers. Inside, a small sphere floated in blue light, humming softly. Daniel touched it, and his vision filled with images. Earth, before the invasion. Cities alive with energy. Machines powered by the same light. It wasn't alien. It was human. The Growl had stolen Earth's last creation, the human core engine, a technology built to change everything. And now it was in Daniel's hands. He looked at the others. Their faces were dirty, tired, but their eyes burned with something powerful, hope mixed with fury. Daniel spoke in a calm, steady voice. "They took our world. Let's take theirs." In that moment, deep in the minds of a forgotten planet, humanity woke up. The weak ones had found their reason to rise again. The tunnels of Trionine had never felt so alive. Every step Daniel took echoed through the stone like a drumbeat of rebellion. Behind him, 10 humans carried the stolen core engine, its blue light flickering softly in the dark. None of them spoke. Every breath was heavy with fear and excitement. They knew that once the Growl discovered the missing cargo, the whole mine would become a battlefield. They reached the old ventilation shaft, their secret path to the surface. For years, the humans had used it to move food and stolen parts. Now it was their escape route. But the shaft was narrow, cold, and steep. One mistake could send them all falling into the abyss below. As Daniel climbed, he could hear the alarms start to scream in the distance. The Growl had found the bodies. The guards' voices echoed through the tunnels in their metallic language. Red lights began to flash everywhere. "Move faster," Daniel whispered. The humans climbed like shadows, hands bleeding against rough metal. When they finally reached the surface, the twin suns were rising. The desert around the mine stretched endless and silent. Far on the horizon, the Grail City stood, tall spires of black metal and glowing red shields. Between the mine and the city, patrol drones hovered. Searching for movement, Daniel knew they couldn't stay in the open for long. He pointed toward the rocky hills to the west. "There's an old shuttle yard there. If we can reach it, maybe we can find something that flies." They ran, crouched low between the rocks. The core engine's light was too bright, so Daniel covered it with his jacket. Every sound, every gust of wind felt like danger. Halfway to the hills, a sharp noise cut through the air. A drone had spotted them. The metallic eye turned red, and before they could react, plasma fire burned the sand beside them. One of the humans, Myra, a former pilot, raised her stolen rifle and shot back. The drone exploded, but it was too late. The sky was now alive with red lights. "Run," Daniel shouted. They sprinted through the dust. The air smelled of smoke and heat. Lasers carved the ground around them. One man fell. Another turned back to help him. Daniel wanted to stop, but Mira pulled him forward. "If you stop now, everyone dies." When they finally reached the shuttle yard, it looked worse than Daniel remembered. Piles of old wrecks, rusted ships buried in sand. But luck was still on their side. In the far corner stood a small transport ship, half broken but still whole. Daniel and Mira ran to it. She jumped into the cockpit, wiping the dust off the controls. "I can make it fly," she said. "Maybe not far, but far enough." Daniel placed the core engine beside her. "Then we use this to power it." Her eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "We don't even know what this thing does." "We'll find out soon enough," Daniel said. The others held the doors while Mira connected the engine to the power core. Blue light spread through the ship's systems like living fire. The control screens flickered on. The engines roared to life with a deep, strange hum, smoother, stronger than any power they had ever heard. "Everyone in," Daniel shouted, as the last human climbed aboard. First Growl ships appeared in the sky. Sleek black hunters, wings cutting through the air like knives. Plasma blasts rained down, shaking the sand. Mira pulled the throttle. The ship groaned, metal screaming, but it lifted. The desert fell away beneath them. For the first time in decades, humans were free, even if only for a few minutes. The Growl fighters chased them, firing bright red bolts. Mira twisted the ship between rocks and clouds, her hands steady on the controls. Daniel watched the core engine's light grow brighter and brighter, almost as if it were alive. Suddenly, the ship jolted. The engine flared with blue fire, and the entire sky seemed to ripple. In a flash, they were gone. The desert, the ships, the planet, everything vanished into a tunnel of light. When the light faded, they were no longer near Trionine. Through the window, a massive gas giant filled the view, surrounded by ancient wrecks and silent stations. "What? What just happened?" Mira whispered. Daniel stared at the core engine. It didn't just power the ship. It moved us. It bent space. Everyone looked at him, silent, realizing what that meant. Humanity had built something the Grawl could never understand, something that could change everything. Daniel turned to the others. "We're not slaves anymore. This is the beginning." Far across the galaxy, the Grawl Empire received the report. The humans had escaped, and they had taken the forbidden engine. For the first time in 70 years, the Grawl felt something they had never known before. Fear. The ship floated in silence above the giant planet. Blue storms twisted across the surface below, and the stars shimmered like cold fire. Inside the small transport, everyone stared at the core engine. Its soft light pulsed, steady and calm, as if it was alive and listening. For a long moment, no one spoke. The humans had escaped. They were free, but lost. Mira broke the silence. We jumped across half the galaxy, maybe more. The scanners show a station nearby. No signals. It looks old. Daniel leaned closer to the window. Among the debris of broken ships, an enormous structure floated half a ring, dark and dead, its surface covered with frozen dust. "Let's go there," he said. "If it's empty, we can hide. Maybe fix the ship." The others agreed. They had no other choice. The engines hummed softly as Mira guided the ship toward the station. When they got close, lights flickered along its edges, as if something inside had just awakened after a long sleep. A docking bay door opened slowly, releasing a thin cloud of ice into space. "That's strange," Myra said. "It's reacting to us." Daniel watched the core engine again. Its glow had changed, brighter, warmer. "Maybe it knows this place," he whispered. They landed inside the bay. The airlock hissed open, releasing a cold breath of air that smelled of metal and time. Daniel stepped out first. His boots echoed on the floor. The walls were marked with symbols, human symbols. Mira touched the wall, wiping away the frost. "This is English," she said quietly. "United Earth Fleet. Station Perseus." Everyone froze. Earth's fleet was destroyed 70 years ago. No one had seen a human ship since. Yet here it was, a ghost from the past, waiting in the dark. They explored carefully. The corridors were silent, but the lights flickered as they walked, as if recognizing them. Daniel found a control room filled with dusty screens. When he powered one up, the image of an old man appeared, a hologram, half broken by static. "If you are hearing this," the voice said, "then humanity has not died. The Perseus station was built to protect the core engine. We failed to stop the Grawl. But if this message still exists, the engine has returned to its own. Remember this: the engine chooses who can use it. It is not just a machine, it carries the memory of Earth." The hologram faded. Silence filled the room again. Daniel stood still, trying to breathe. "The memory of Earth," he repeated softly. "That's why it showed me those visions." The others looked at the core engine glowing in his hands. It felt heavier now, as if it carried not only power, but also the souls of everyone who had died for it. Suddenly, the lights around them turned red. The station's sensors had detected something: movement in space. Mira checked the radar. Growl hunters. 2 ships. They followed our trail. The humans ran back to the transport. But before they could leave, Daniel stopped. "No," he said. "If we run, they'll chase us forever. We have the station. We can fight." Mira stared at him. "With what?" "We have 1 broken ship and some tools." Daniel looked at the walls, the symbols, the machines, the memories. This place was made by humans. Maybe it still remembers how to defend itself. They split into teams. Engineers worked to power the old defense systems. Myra and the others armed the ship's cannons. Daniel connected the core engine to the station's main power grid. The moment he did, blue light rushed through every corridor. The entire structure came alive: shields, weapons, everything. The sound of power filled the air like thunder. Outside, the Growl ships approached, glowing red and ready to destroy. The station's cannons rotated and fired. Blue energy bolts cut through space, hitting one of the Growl ships and tearing it apart. The second ship fired back, shaking the station. Alarms screamed. Sparks flew. Shields are falling. Someone shouted. Daniel pressed his hand on the core engine. "Come on," he whispered. "Help us." The engine pulsed once, twice, then burst with bright light. A wave of energy spread out, surrounding the station and forming a barrier. The Graal's weapons stopped mid-air, frozen like insects in amber. Then the energy expanded and threw the enemy ship back into the storm of the gas giant below. Silence returned. The battle was over. Everyone stood still, eyes wide with disbelief. They had won. Humans' weak, broken slaves had destroyed a Growl warship. Mira looked at Daniel. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," Daniel said. "It did." He looked at the core engine. "It's light now, gentle and soft. It's protecting us because it remembers what we were and what we can be again." The others smiled through their tears. For the first time, they didn't just feel free. They felt powerful. Far away in the Grawl capital, the Emperor received a new report. The human fugitives had destroyed 2 ships. The core engine was active again. The Emperor stared at the message in silence. Then he spoke in a cold, sharp voice. "Find them. And this time, bring me their leader alive." The Perseus station floated in silence above the giant planet. Its broken structure now glowed faint blue from the core engine's energy. For the first time in 70 years, human technology was alive again in the stars. Daniel stood in the command room, looking through the cracked window at the wreckage of the destroyed Grawl ships. The view felt unreal. A week ago, he was just another worker in the mines of Trionine. Now, he was the leader of the first free humans in generations. Mira entered quietly, holding a datapad. "The station's systems are still unstable," she said. "Half of it is working, half is dead. But the defense grid is holding. We can survive here for now." Daniel nodded. "Good, then we fix everything we can. This place will be our home." They worked day and night. The core engine powered the life support, weapons, and communication arrays. Old human symbols lit up across the walls. Every corridor reminded them of a time when Earth still had a place among the stars. But Daniel knew the peace wouldn't last. The Growl would return, and next time, they wouldn't send only 2 ships. They would bring an army. One evening, while Daniel studied the holograms in the control room, the core engine suddenly pulsed brighter. The lights flickered, and a soft sound filled the air, like a whisper. "Daniel." He froze. The voice was human, calm and clear. "Who's there?" he asked. The core engine's light shifted, forming a faint image. A woman in a white uniform, her face kind but ghostly. "My name is Dr. Alara Voss. I was part of the Earth research team that created the core engine. If you are hearing this, it means the engine has awakened." Daniel stared in shock. "You're an AI?" "Not exactly," she said. "I am a memory imprint. The core engine carries the thoughts of the scientists who built it. We believed that one day, if humanity fell, someone would rise again to finish what we started." Daniel stepped closer. "What is this engine really?" "The core engine is more than power," Alara said. "It is knowledge, a living archive of human history, science, and emotion. It can reshape matter, bend space, and even heal itself. But it needs connection. It grows stronger through human will, through hope." Daniel felt his heart beat faster. "Then it's alive because we believed." "Yes," she said softly. "The Growl never understood that. They tried to control it with fear. But the engine only answers to those who fight for life." The image faded, leaving Daniel staring at the glowing sphere. Hope was no longer just a feeling, it was power. Later that night, Mira ran into the control room. "We're picking up a signal," she said. "It's weak, but human." Daniel's eyes widened. "Another ship?" "Maybe," Mira replied. "It's coming from a nearby moon." "Should we go?" Daniel didn't hesitate. "Yes. If there are humans out there, we find them." The next morning, they took the transport ship again. The core engine stayed in the station, protected by a small team. As they left, the station's blue light faded into the distance like a beacon in the dark. The journey to the moon took only an hour. The surface was covered in ice and broken metal, the ruins of an old mining base. As they landed, they saw a small group of people waving weak lights. Humans when Daniel and Mira stepped out. The survivors ran to them, thin, tired, but alive. Their leader, a tall man with silver hair, saluted Daniel. "You're from Earth," he said. "We thought we were the last." Daniel smiled. "Not anymore." They took the survivors back to Perseus Station. There were engineers, scientists, even a few children. The population of free humans had grown from a handful to nearly 100. For the first time in 70 years, laughter echoed through human walls, but far away. In the dark reaches of space, the Growl were gathering. Massive fleets moved silently toward the coordinates of the old station. The Emperor himself watched the map from his throne. "They think they can rise again," he said coldly. "Then let them rise so we can crush them in front of the whole galaxy." Back at Perseus, Daniel didn't yet know what was coming. He looked at the stars from the window and spoke quietly to Mira. "We were slaves for too long. The Growl made us believe we were weak. But look at us now. We've already done the impossible." Mira smiled. "And what's next?" Daniel turned to the glowing blue light of the core engine. "Next, we remind the galaxy who humans really are." Outside, the station's sensors picked up something at the edge of space. Hundreds of red dots moving closer. The warning lights flashed. The war for humanity's future had just begun. The warning sirens filled the air. Red lights flashed across every corridor of Perseus Station. Humans ran through the halls, shouting orders, sealing doors, and preparing weapons. Outside the window, the stars had turned red. Hundreds of Growl warships surrounded the planet, glowing like fireflies of death. Daniel stood in the command center, eyes fixed on the holographic map. Each red dot was a ship, and there were too many to count. "They're here," Myra said quietly. Daniel nodded. "Then this is where we make our stand." Every human on the station gathered in the hangar. Some wore broken armor, others held mining tools turned into weapons. They were scared, but behind the fear was something stronger, the will to fight. Daniel spoke loudly so every voice could hear him. "For 70 years, they treated us like animals. They called us weak. But today, we fight not to survive. We fight to show them we are still human." A roar filled the room. The people were ready. Myra took her place at the ship controls, and Daniel went to the core chamber. The engine's blue light pulsed, faster and brighter than ever. He placed his hand on it. "We need you again," he whispered. "Help us protect our people." The core glowed so bright it filled the room with white light. A soft voice echoed, Dr. Alara's memory. "The engine is ready, Daniel. But remember, it responds to your intent. Its power comes from your heart, not your hands." Daniel nodded. "Then let it feel everything we are." Outside, the first wave of Growl ships fired. Beams of red energy cut through space and slammed into the station's shields. The whole structure shook. Sparks flew from the walls. Mira shouted through the comms, "Shields down to 60%. "Fire back," Daniel ordered. The station's massive cannons turned toward the enemy and launched blue bolts of plasma. They struck one Growl cruiser and tore it apart. The explosion lit up the darkness like a second sun. Cheers echoed through the station, but the victory was short. 10 more ships replaced the one destroyed. The humans were outnumbered. The shields were falling fast. The station trembled under the constant fire. Daniel could hear the screams through the comms damaged sections. Injured people, chaos everywhere. He closed his eyes and pressed both hands on the core engine. He didn't see the battle anymore. He saw memories. Earth's oceans. The cities of light. The people laughing under blue skies. Every life lost, every tear shed, every dream crushed. All of it became energy inside him. The core engine responded. Blue lightning raced through the entire station. The walls vibrated with power. Outside, the weapons changed, firing not just plasma, but pure energy shaped like wings of light. The next volley hit 3 enemy ships at once. They exploded in silence, turning into bright dust. The humans watched in shock. The station wasn't just fighting, it was alive. Myra's voice came through. "Daniel, whatever you're doing, don't stop." The Growl fleet pulled back for a moment, regrouping. Then a giant ship appeared, black and gold, bigger than any other. The Emperor's flagship. Its voice boomed through the comms, cold and deep. "Human," the Emperor said, "your time has ended. Surrender the engine, and I may let some of you live." Daniel looked at the screen. You've already taken everything from us. What else can you take? The Emperor's ship charged its main weapon. A red beam built up, brighter and brighter, ready to destroy the station in one shot. Daniel took a deep breath. All power to the core, he said. The core engine roared to life. Blue energy surged through Daniel's body, lifting him off the floor. His eyes glowed the same blue. The entire station trembled as if it was breathing. When the growl fired, the red beam met a wall of blue light. The space between them exploded in color, waves of energy spreading in every direction. Inside the storm, the humans held their ground. The core absorbed the energy, growing stronger. The red light broke, shattered, and reversed, slamming back into the Emperor's ship. The flagship's shields cracked. Fire spread across its surface. The great ship, symbol of growl power, fell into the storm of the gas giant below. The surviving growl ships turned and fled. When the light faded, Perseus Station floated silent again, damaged but standing. The humans looked at each other in disbelief. They had faced the Empire and won. Mira ran to the core chamber. Daniel stood there, breathing hard, his hands still glowing faint blue. She smiled through her tears. You did it, shook his head. No, we did it. Every one of us. The others gathered around him. For the first time in living memory, humanity had won a real battle, not by luck, but by strength. Outside, the wreckage of growl ships drifted through space, glowing faintly under the light of the twin suns. And deep within the core engine, the voice of Dr. Alara whispered again, "This is only the beginning." The stars above Perseus Station burned quietly after the storm of war. The wreckage of growl ships floated like ghosts, silent proof that the impossible had happened. Humanity had won not by numbers or strength, but by will. Inside the station, people worked day and night to repair what was broken. Sparks lit the dark halls and laughter echoed where once there had only been fear. Children played in the corridors, their small voices reminding everyone that this was not the end, it was a beginning. Daniel stood at the main window, watching the sun rise over the gas giant. The blue light of the core engine filled the command room, steady and calm. Mira joined him, wiping oil from her hands. "You should rest," she said. He smiled faintly. "I can't. The signals are spreading. Other humans are hearing us." The message from Perseus had reached far beyond their system. Across the galaxy, on slave worlds and forgotten colonies, humans had seen the impossible, the Grawl defeated. Hope spread like wildfire every day. New signals arrived. Ships with broken engines, people with scars and stories, refugees carrying the flag of Earth that had been hidden for 70 years. They came to Perseus from every direction, from mines, prisons, and ruins. The station grew alive with voices, music, and light. The humans called themselves the Reclaimers, not just survivors, but rebuilders of their lost kind. But Daniel knew peace would not last. The Growl Empire had billions of soldiers and fleets that could darken the stars. Their pride had been wounded, and they would never forgive. One morning, the core engine pulsed again, brighter than ever before. The voice of Dr. Alara filled the room. "Daniel, the engine has reached its limit here. Its energy is growing faster than this station can hold. You must move it to a world where it can awaken completely." Daniel frowned. "Where?" Elara's voice softened. "Earth." Mira gasped. "Earth is gone. Burned." "Not gone," the voice replied. "The surface is dead, but the heart still beats. The engine remembers where it came from. It wants to return home." Daniel looked out at the stars. Returning to Earth meant traveling through the heart of the Grawl Empire. It was madness, but that had never stopped humanity before. He turned to Mira. "Prepare the ships. Tell everyone, we're going home." The journey began weeks later. A fleet of human ships patched together from ruins and wrecks moved through the void behind Perseus Station, now turned into a moving fortress. The core engine glowed at its center, guiding them through dark space. As they crossed the stars, more humans joined. Thousands, entire colonies rose up, inspired by Perseus' message. The Reclaimers had become an army not of war, but of hope. Then came the final obstacle, the Growl blockade around the Sol system. Dozens of warships, engines burning red. Waiting to crush anything that tried to pass, Daniel stood on the bridge, watching them appear on the scanner. Myra asked quietly, "What if we can't make it through?" He smiled. "Then at least they'll know we tried." The Growl commander's voice filled the radio. "Human fleet, surrender. You are outnumbered and outgunned. There is no escape." Daniel pressed the come button. "You still don't understand us. We never needed to escape," he gave the order. "Activate the core." The engine burst into light brighter than any star. The human fleet vanished into a storm of blue fire that swept across the Growl blockade. It didn't destroy them, it changed them. Their ships froze mid-attack, their weapons melted away, and the pilots fell silent as their systems shut down completely. When the light faded, the human fleet stood above Earth. The planet below was scarred and gray, but patches of green shone through the clouds, small signs of life fighting to return. Daniel felt tears in his eyes. "Home," he whispered. The ships landed on the surface. People stepped out, feeling real air for the first time in generations. The core engine settled into the heart of the old city, where once stood New London. Its light spread across the ruins, purifying the ground, turning ash into soil, dead rivers into water. The humans fell to their knees as the wind changed. The earth was breathing again. Daniel looked up at the sky and spoke softly, as if to everyone who had ever lived. "We were the weak ones until we weren't." Mira stood beside him. "What now?" she asked. Daniel smiled. "Now we rebuild. And this time, no one forgets who we are." High above, the core engine pulsed one final time. Across the galaxy, that light reached every corner, every world where humans still lived in chains. And when they saw it, they knew the truth. Humanity had returned.